right, I guess we better start.
Wow. Am I late?
No, you're not, actually.
I was going to start 2 minutes early.
Take a picture of the crowd.
Rachel said he'll be here either right on time or about a minute late. So that's perfect.
I try to be a minute early.
I know you do. I appreciate it. There's a guy sitting at the back booth who is a fraternity, different IU, but the same fraternity.
Welcome to the Autosportradio.com 2019 show. I'm your host, Don Kay. We are live from McGilvery Speedway at 30th and High School in the fabulous town of Speedway, Indiana. Tonight's show is presented, as always, by Honda and Honda HPD, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, NTT IndyCar Series, and SVRA. A couple of quick things I want to mention. If you didn't get out to see the Dan Weldon Pro-Am Challenge, you missed a good one. It was a good race, and oddly enough, guess who won? Colton Herta. And one of his teammates was none other than George Michael Steinbrenner. Second place went to Scott Dixon, the defending champion, and third was Connor Daly. They raised initially $20,000, which went to the Alzheimer's Foundation, and there's some more money to be counted yet, and it will be announced shortly. I want to remind you, if you haven't kept up with what's going on in IndyCar and the Road to Indy program, you need to go to tracksideonline.com and subscribe. You get all of the PR, you get all the information you need on Trackside, so subscribe to it. It's very inexpensive. tracksideonline.com. And if you need dental work, everybody loves to go to the dentist. Call the Indy Dental Group. Dr. Jack Miller and Dr. Liz Lewis are phenomenal. They got a great practice. Appointment, the number is 317-846-6125. Thursday, the track opens. The Road to Indy, all three series will be there. And, of course, the IndyCar Grand Prix is on Saturday. So get on out there. The weather's warm. It should be, and it's not supposed to rain. Alexa told me it wouldn't anyway. Next week, my guest, some of you may have heard him. He's the Indy 500 winner. He's the former world F1 world champion. He is second all-time in number of wins. Who am I talking about? Mario Andretti. He is scheduled to be here next week. Now, get to my first guest. A number of people said, how in the world did you get the governor to show up? I said, simple, I asked. Oh, it took a while, but it happened. The gentleman is I've got an article here, which I'll show you in a second. You've probably seen it. But to say, look who's here. The governor of the state of Indiana, please welcome the Honorable Eric Holcomb. Don't look at Dr. Mark. Just ignore him. You show up, he shows up. Don't look at him. You know, it's. I understand that you had a birthday recently, and you were invited out to the Speedway to sit on the pit wall, drink a beer, and have some pizza.
You are correct. And, by the way, I did two things that just scream Indiana, and that is I shot baskets on the yard of bricks at the Indy 500 with lifelong friends of mine. I grew up, in between the U.S. Nationals, the drags. We always call them the drags. And I grew up in Claremont, so we claimed it. I know it's in Brownsburg, but we claimed it being in Claremont. And then, of course, the Indy 500. So to have a couple of my buddies that I've known over 5 decades be able to drain a few on the yard of bricks, just nothing better than that.
Tell me, sports are big in Indiana, particularly in Indianapolis. They've had all kinds of Final Fours, and they've got some great. The PRI show comes in, which is huge. They had to expand the convention center to accommodate them if they wanted them. They're building hotels. How important to the city of Indianapolis and Indiana in general is sports? Having 2 professional teams here, how big is that, and does that draw companies in because of it?
Well, it's an enormous sense of pride for us, and it connects us with people around the world. There's not a place in the country, or in the world for that matter, foreign country, standing on foreign soil where I don't talk about the Indy 500. Everyone can, place where Indiana is because of the race, and maybe Larry Bird too. But really, it does. It stands out. It's like an international connection And then, of course, being a race that draws international drivers, they've got their favorites too, and they've followed it, and they've watched it or listened to it on the radio or watched it live, depending on where you are. And so it really does. It's part of our DNA. It's who we are. Well, I always, when I'm trying to recruit a business to the state of Indiana, I say there's two things we like doing. We like competing, and we like winning. We like racing. And that all traces back to, our overall economy. The auto industry in the state of Indiana literally touches all 92 counties. When you think about the supply chain in the auto sports industry, you're talking about, about 24,000 plus motor sports businesses that are employing over 400,000 people in those businesses across the state of Indiana. Again, touching 92 counties. So whether it's down in Hobstadt or, in Randolph County or in Indianapolis and all places in between, I mean, people have identified for generations with racing and drivers. So it's a good calling card for me to always extend and make invites. I'll tell you this: last year at the race. We had over 17 different nations. We hosted 17 different dignitaries to watch the race. This year we're at 21 different countries already. So it continues to, in addition to all those seats being filled, and this race is shaping up to be, one of the best. It is something that no other state, in fact, no other country in the world can lay claim to, the biggest sporting event in the world. And we got it right here in the center of our state.
You played basketball?
Poorly.
Really?
I've been told I can't jump over a dime, which is true. Not real fast, but, I can set a pick.
Do you follow the Pacers closely, or
Very.
IU and
sure.
all the teams?
Yeah.
Do you get a chance
Basketball
to attend?
and racing are less so now, but I try to.
Why less so now? Just because you're the governor of the state, you got other things to do?
Well, yeah, just competing invitations, I guess, and duties. Some are formal. My life kind of changed in this job, whereas people typically hand me my schedule. I have a little say over what's yes and no, but there are a lot of events like they don't move the race if I can't get to it, right? Like life goes on for most people, and so I have to kind of adapt to what's going on around me, and then you got to make decisions. But the race I never miss.
I have to thank Rachel, who helped set this up, and Kevin Sears. So there she is.
Yeah, two race fans too. That's part of our interview process.
Yeah, well,
Right.
I interviewed with Kevin a lot.
Yeah.
And I drove him nuts because he said, "I'll do it. It'll happen." I mentioned to you at the Mario thing,
right.
and you said, "Yeah, I'll do it."
Yeah, exactly.
And I said,
you
said
just got to
that.
go to me.
Oh, I started out at the top, then I go to the underlings. But I want to thank them for making this happen.
They're good, and they're fans.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, thank you. There's a gentleman who was listening. I guess he's a gentleman. I really don't know. I shouldn't say that. Listening last week, and he said, "I see you are going to have the governor next week." And I said, "Well, yeah." He said, "I just saw an article, I think in a real estate magazine. You might be interested in." And I said, "Really? What's that?" He said, "Mr. Nice Guy." "Oh, a story about me." "No, it's about your guest." And I have it here. It says, "Mr. Nice Guy, Indiana's governor doesn't scream, doesn't threaten, and doesn't even complain. He just wins."
Like I said, we like to.
What has surprised you since you've become
There is
governor?
a little rubbing and governing, though.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, no. You seem to do quite well, if I'm
Pretty
not
grounded.
mistaken.
Yeah.
What surprised you the most? I mean, you've been in government, you've been a lieutenant governor and so forth. Do you get any time at home, or do you have to wear a name tag so when you do show up, somebody knows who you are?
No, we knew what we were getting into, and so I have no excuses. It is a little different. You lose, if you can word it that way, but you lose your anonymity or your, some would say, privacy. But there's no, going to the store and just picking up Q-tips and not devoting a few hours to hear from what's on people's minds. That's a good thing, by the way. Hoosiers will share what is on their mind, and I'm comfortable. I got the skin of a rhinoceros, and so I don't offend very easily. And by the way, that's where you learn what's really happening, out in the ground level. I don't like to be tethered to or sitting behind the wood desk very much. I like to be out and about.
I talked to two people who went over to Italy, and you were part of the troop that went there. So what in the world what would the governor be doing going to Lara and looking at go-karts being built?
Valley itself.
He said, "Are you kidding?" That's all he talked about the whole time was about racing. That's it. I said, "Really?"
I'd do this job free if I could, revolve it around racing all the time. But we have a lot in common. I mean, it's not just Alara. It's the whole research and development and the kind of, the quest to constantly take it to the next level. That's something that, when you look at the team aspect of racing, the pit crew, the ownership, the driver, everything that goes into it, it's a team sport, and I can relate to that. That's how I kind of grew up, going out to the drags and, trying to get autographs from drivers of which I had never met before.
That's not hard.
Exactly.
Who did you say you had some NHRA guys shooting buckets with? Who'd you have?
This guys that I grew up with. Friends, not race drivers.
I have found drag racers very interesting people. I had John Forson here one night.
Is that right?
I asked him one question, and I went and sat down. That was the end. You can't shut him up. He gets it going.
I try not to filibuster.
I've had his daughter here twice, two of them actually.
That's a special place. Obviously, growing up out,
that
side of town, it's a beautiful to watch the sunset.
The interesting thing I found about that is, prior to the camera behind the cars, the grandstands were full, but not. Now you can see when you watch it before it gets to town, they actually drive the car. When you sit and they go this way, you don't see that. Yeah. When you look from behind, you see these guys and gals actually drive the cars.
Oh yeah. I've been out there, and one neat thing that's happened in my life is I have a friend in racing, and I was able to watch his son race out there with him and his mom. And so when I think about when we were in, 5th grade, tromping around out there, and then to see his son racing out there, that was pretty sentimental as well.
Now, I'm told that in your neighborhood was a guy who's been fairly successful climbing the ladder of motorsports. I don't know if he ever played basketball. That I don't know. But he is currently...
He was no one wanted to guard the guy.
Really?
He had sharp elbows.
But he has been quite successful in the racing world. And
real good ball player. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, of course you do. He's the president of Penske Racing. Of course, I'm talking about Tim Cindric, who is a Hoosier, born and raised here. How did you two guys hang out? I mean, you didn't want to guard him, obviously.
Very, still to this day, very good friends. Yeah. Grew up 2 streets apart, so we played a lot of baseball in the street and football in the fields and basketball throughout life. Gone on vacations together, and he's the Austin Cindric is the guy that's his son who's driving, and so we touch base pretty regularly. He was actually, by the way, in here for the training day, and on sine die, the last day of this year's General Assembly, it was a rainy day, if you remember, out at the track, so they didn't get a lot of running in, but he was happened to spend the night before he went back to Charlotte, and he called and said, "Hey, what are you doing?" It happened to be like the busiest day of my year, and I said, "Would you please come on down?" So he actually came down, and we spent about 6 hours together, and he got to kind of be a fly on the wall in a business that he's not. I'm not in racing like he is, but he got to be a part of that day as well. And it was good to have a friend, around.
Yeah, but it seems to me when all was said and done, you pretty much got what you were looking for. Pretty much,
During this General Assembly? Yeah, we ran the table. We like winning.
That's what it says. He just wins. It's interesting. I had asked, Rachel asked me, is there any question you're going to have? I said, I don't want to talk politics. He does that 24 hours a day. That's not what he's here for. But I said the only thing I might ask is that anything that the legislature did that is for or against motorsports.
No, matter of fact, look, in the state of Indiana, we do a lot of racing of all kinds, right? I mean, it's just not, we planes, cars. I mean, go down to Oldenburg, Indiana. We race dachshunds, right? We have, like, literally at the Freudenfest, you can go to the dachshund races, and there's a lot of betting that has been occurring down there on that front. But when you think about all the racing that occurs throughout the state of Indiana, and the the generations, as I said, and the families that kind of orient their lives around it, it truly is it's a special place, and not a lot of states that offer that diversity. And so our Indiana Economic Development Corporation, we actually have a motorsports wing to the whole program, and so we're supporting racing in every way that we can, including, by the way, maybe you have or maybe you haven't, but I highly recommend going down to Madison, Indiana, to the boat races.
Oh, yeah.
It's making a comeback, and like a lot of racing, it's had its downturn, but it's now kind of coming back, and we're going to get more boats this year, and the championship will be held there. So get down there around the July 4th holiday. Get out to Brownsburg, Labor Day, but then get out to Memorial Day to the Indy 500. But we have a lot of options throughout the year.
Dachshunds.
Dachshund races.
Sounds like a lot of fun. I can hardly wait for that. I'd go down there and say, "You want a job? Yeah, clean up after." Oh, no, thanks.
Yeah.
That'd be a good job for Howdy Bell, though, cleaning up after the dogs. Put your hand down. Put your hand down. Do you get a lot of interesting questions from other governors saying, "Geez, you got this, and what do we have?"
Well, there's a lot of envy out there, yeah. I mean, we're doing a lot right here in the state of Indiana. There's a lot going on, and you mentioned sports in general, racing being predominant, but look, we're going to be hosting the NBA All-Star Game. We're going to be hosting a National College Football Championship game. We've already hosted a Super Bowl, which it was, like 60 degrees out in the middle of the winter. And so we do it, but the reason why we're so successful, I'm convinced, has a lot to do with the Indy 500 and the years of volunteering that and people getting in shape, so to speak, in terms of the commitment that they make to pull this greatest spectacle in racing off with the hundreds of thousands of people, not just on race day, but the whole month of May. That spilled over into pulling off these big Final Fours like they're nobody's business. People that come here want to come back. Yeah. And it's, a lot of that can be traced to the Indy 500.
I've had a number of people say, when you come to Indianapolis, it appears that the event they're putting on, they just had the NRA here, which drew the president and vice president, incidentally, in case anybody didn't know.
80,000 people.
And they said, when Indianapolis hosts something big, it's like it's nothing because they've done it so often and so well. It's all
people want to come back.
Yeah.
People are polite. They get the Hoosier hospitality and treated fairly. It's easy to get around.
Well, that means you're accessible to anybody. So I could just call your press secretary and say, "Hey, can he stop here?"
I haven't changed.
Sure. Yeah. I suppose a silly question, although I think I know the answer, is you have committed for 2020?
Did you ask me if I'm committed?
Yes. Not if you're going to be.
I haven't made any final decisions.
Oh, haven't you? Okay. I'm sorry. I did ask a second. I didn't mean that, but I just thought I'd ask.
No, I was very public about this. I told everyone that I think that you can, if you do the job you got to the best of your ability, it makes future decisions easier. And we just came out of the legislative session and budget session for 2 years, and so that needed to be my focus. And we're winding down. Tomorrow midnight, I have to have every bill signed, vetoed, or not signed. And so I've just told everyone that my wife and I will huddle up after I get past those official duties, and we'll talk about it.
I have to say that your predecessor, Governor Daniels, who's now president of Purdue, I find him an interesting guy because he seems to know numbers, and he's left you with a surplus, and you've kept it, and you've kept it. I'm sorry?
I've grown it.
Yes, that's what I said. I was heading that way. That's phenomenal. It doesn't happen very often.
Yeah.
And there's so many states that are in deep doo-doo, but
Yeah.
you have managed to hold the line. You've managed to get what you're looking for, and in all that time, you still get to go out on a yard of bricks and shoot baskets.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of credit to him, in all honesty, in that kind of turned the carrier around and got it pointed in the right direction and then full steam ahead. And success tends to breed success. You keep that momentum up and you stay focused. You have a good team. You mentioned earlier something that reminded me when we, about Rachel and some others, when we started to staff up, we had 3 questions I've added, or 3 traits that I said you have to have all 3 of these if you want to work for this administration. And I've added one since, but they're all H's. And one is you got to be honest. Second is you got to be humble. And the third is you got to be hungry. So don't mistake the humbleness for, being lazy or, just kind of laid back. And then the fourth is it really does help with me to have a sense of humor. And it gets hot in the kitchen sometimes, and people's, it does, and you got to take a little time to smell the roses, to enjoy what's going on. We're doing good work. It's fulfilling. It's important, but have a little fun along. I always say keep the fun in our function, right? I mean, it's important work, but we're doing it we're motivated for the right reasons, and we've got a great team, and we're all kind of moving in that, right direction. Let's enjoy it too.
Well, let me suggest if you have a bad day, things aren't going well, Dr. Mark Utzler is always he'll answer the phone. He's silly enough when I call, he answers it, so I know full well if you call.
Speaking of committed.
Good idea. I hadn't thought of that, but and that organization he has started, the Indiana Racing Memorial Association, has grown by leaps and bounds, and he and Brian are doing a superb job of recognizing. I don't necessarily consider a race driver a hero. I mean, they're not necessarily that I want to follow some of the things they've done, but they are somebody that I admire. This past weekend they had the Dan Weldon Memorial karting. I met him the first day he came to test, and I sat on a wall and listened to him. And I said, this guy gets it. He knows where he is, the history. So I invited him on the program. And I announced next week will be a young man coming in. His name is Dan Weldon. Who the heck is he? Right. Wait. I said, you just wait. And for once in my life, I was right. Yeah. But I admired him more, not so much as a race driver. He obviously was good, but just a super nice guy, good guy. Yeah. And he had to be when Tony Kanaan and Dario Franchitti and Scott Dixon in Japan, he laid. I went to his house. I wouldn't go in. I didn't want to get it dusty. No. But he had all his shoes and everything lined up. They took the left shoe and sent them all back here. So he gets into his room to put on a pair of shoes. He only had one of each.
Nice. Sense of humor. I like it.
Yeah, they did well. What's next on your racing agenda? Will you be here Saturday for the Grand Prix?
No, only because I'm a little saddened about that. I normally would be, but I'm doing a commencement address at Anderson University that's getting in the way. I'll be here for the race and for probably 10 other events out at the track in the month of May.
I find it interesting that a gentleman like yourself, as I said, I met you initially and barged in. Well, I didn't actually. I waited for about 40 minutes. You got done chatting with all of the executives, but you are an approachable guy. You can be approached. I mean, if somebody comes at you with a bat, you tend to duck away, I suppose. But and I think that's important to listen. You are elected to run the state, and there are people that might have an idea that, hey, we never thought of that. That's something to look at, and I personally appreciate it. And for whatever it's worth, which isn't much, if you run again, I'll vote for you a second time.
Thank you very much.
That's one vote. Anybody else?
It helps to be transparent and accessible, and that's how we're informed. And so it's somewhat self-serving for me. Granted, I said I like to not be sitting behind my desk, but it's somewhat self-serving. I can learn a whole lot more, down in Greensburg or down in Madison or down in VV or Darmstadt or Elkhart or you name it, any place in the state of Indiana. But that's where that's where the real perspectives and the lay of the land can be gained, but only if you're there. It's amazing. I used to think, well, why not just pick up the phone and call me and tell me that? Because I learned so much out on the road and those one-on-one interactions. Or tonight, and you just you feed off that. You feed off getting the information straight, from the horse's mouth, so to speak.
Well, I noticed that you have some folks with you. Now, Rachel isn't very big, but I see somebody there can probably get you out the door in one piece.
Well, I hope. He's beat me in a game of horse before.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Can he dunk?
Yeah, it was in Howard County, Kokomo. I'll never forget it. Yeah. A couple years ago. Still haven't shaken it.
And you still have
from behind
him
the goal. He did it. I give him credit.
And you still keep him around.
We have the best. I don't know what you all think, but we have the best state police in the country. These are God-fearing, incredible human beings, and I'm fortunate to be surrounded by a dozen of the best of the best.
I was over at the Speedway picking up some credentials the other day, and I ran into somebody.
There were no booze.
I'm going to tell you something. I wouldn't argue with him. I don't care what he said.
No one's got an outstanding ticket, this is highly unusual.
And I was over at the Speedway, and I ran into somebody, not literally, and I said, I've had a lot of people email me and text me and stuff, say, is it safe to come to the 500 with what's going on in the world? So I asked the question. He said, are you kidding? Every, FBI, CIA, anything that's got 3 letters or less, they're here. The state police are here.
Yeah.
The county, the marshals are here. And there'll be a boatload of people wandering around. You don't know who they are.
Yeah, that's right.
And I was told they've opened the lines up because people got mad standing in line last year, and they said everybody came at once. So I said, I got an idea. You want to eliminate a line? Start at 5:30. Nobody there then. But my comment to
good people watching.
Yeah. But I said to the people that were complaining about being in lines, bear this in mind. It's for you.
Yeah.
That they're doing it. They said this year they're going to check everything. You got a bag, a purse, they're going to check it. They haven't done
better
that.
safe than sorry.
Oh, of course. And with what's going on in the world,
you don't even see some of the snipers.
That's true. And I've heard that there are a few around to keep an eye on everything. And then they got drones floating around.
Yep.
So it's a safe place to be.
It is.
I think.
For the whole family.
Oh, yeah. It's great.
Raise them right. Take them to the race.
There you go. Did you listen before you were allowed at the racetrack? I mean, Doug Bowles couldn't go until he was 12 or something. Did you listen to the race on the radio?
When I was very small, young, we actually had it on the radio in the garage, and we had kind of neighborhood gatherings, picnics, about four to six families, depending on the year, that would all get together, and we'd move it around, and it was always on the radio. I mean, every single year. And then Tim and I and others. I'm not saying we skip school to go out to the racetrack some days, but some teachers did too. By the way, like when you run into a teacher leading up to the race, that you kind of know it's in our DNA, and you kind of look the other way, and they look the other way, and but I've been going for, like I said, decades, but probably up until I was younger than 10, we were listening to it on the radio.
Well, I came down here in 1962 against better judgment. I had, as I've said several times, I had a Mercury Comet station wagon.
Nice.
Our wives slept inside. My friend and I slept outside. It rained. I got up in the morning. I said, I got news for you. I'm not going to the race. The heck with you. You got to come. No, I don't. I said, but I'll tell you something. You better get back here early because otherwise the beer's going to be gone. They harped, and I finally went. And we're sitting in the Tower Terrace all the way at the end at the time. And those cars came out of 4. I've been doing this for 28 years. I'm still here.
Yeah, watching them come out of 4 is exhilarating.
Oh, good grief. There's a lot of people in there who say, why don't you quit? Well, Howdy says it to me all the time. I quit. Why don't you?
It's if I got time to share a story. You mentioned when you first came, there's a gentleman that came as a guest, and his wife is now currently the ambassador to Canada, Kelly Craft, and she's being nominated to be the ambassador to the United Nations this month. But her husband I had met first, and I had invited him to the race. And so he brings Kelly, his wife, to the race a couple years ago. And she had been in charge of the Kentucky Derby. They're from Kentucky, and she'd been in charge for about 5 years of the Kentucky Derby. And she had never been to the Indy 500. And I was a little, concerned, and I asked Joe Kraft, the Kraft Center down in UK. This is that family. And I asked Joe, I said, so you've been to the race. When did you go to the race? And he said, well, it was back in the 70s, and I drove up here, and I slept on the hood of my car with 2 other guys. And so it's a little different now. And I was worried about Kelly, how because you think about the Kentucky Derby and all the pastels and the big hats and the dresses, and little different in the infield, the snake pit, like just be very casual when you dress. And so we went to the top of the pagoda to watch the start of the race, and I kept telling Kelly, like, the 30 minutes leading up to the start of the race is the most patriotic thing you will ever see in your life. And that includes going to Normandy. This is just, so we're all standing on the top, the roof, all 4 of us, my wife, myself, Kelly, Joe, and she's watching the 30 minutes of the race, and I'm locked on watching all the action, and I look over at Kelly right before the start of the race, and she is crying profusely. And she said, I've never seen anything more patriotic and beautiful than this. And she's hooked. You see that. I don't care if you've never been to the race before, and she's just itching to come back, and I don't think they're going to be able to make it back this year because she's going through this process, but they'll be back.
One of the biggest thrill I had is a couple years ago. They had 105 Medal of Honor winners.
Isn't that amazing?
And I shook hands with every one of them.
Thank you.
I stood there as the cars came off the track, and I shook hands with every one of them. I thought, wow, look what they've done for this country.
That's what they did for us, That's what
without them,
they and a lot of other people did for us.
Oh, yeah, what our military has done. If they hadn't done that, we wouldn't be here for the 500.
Right. Which is the beautiful thing about the race, the larger meaning, of Memorial Day.
It's great. Where's your next stop when you leave here? I assume home.
It'll be ultimately home.
I've got 10, 11 o'clock.
I won't. It'll be before midnight, but I'll probably pick up some food on the way somewhere. I don't miss any meals.
I see. Neither do I. However, mine, I have a great cook, and unfortunately, I like what she cooks, so I eat too much. Just in general, have you been out to see the air race?
Yes.
What do you think of that? That's kind of interesting.
I love it all. You talk about daredevils, and I couldn't hold my meal down if I was trying to, doing what they were doing. But it's exhilarating as well.
Have you ever taken a ride with the Blue Angels or one of the?
I have not. I don't know if I could stomach that.
Oh, come on.
Yeah. I'll do the 2-seater this year, but. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, oh yeah, I'm doing it. 25th.
No, you're
25th.
You're 6'5". Have they made one to handle you?
I'll be able to get in and out of it.
Well, Scott keeps inviting me. He said, you got to take a ride. And I try and get fans that haven't done it because I'm hooked. It doesn't matter.
Have you done it?
No.
Have you?
No. Oh.
Would you do it again? Okay. I've never done it, so this is...
Well, it's quite
something. A little uneasy about it, but I got to do it.
But I said to Scott, I'm sorry. I said to Scott, if I go, I can get in the car. It's getting out's the problem. He said, don't worry, we got a lot of Vaseline. We'll get you out. Well, you will enjoy it. And when are you going to do it?
25th.
I'm going to come out and watch that.
I'll be there.
With bells on.
Yep.
All right. You going to take Kevin with you?
He'll be there. He'll be there.
Yeah. Okay. You going to take Rachel with you?
If she wants.
Oh.
She's trying to score a ticket right now. I like it.
Well, listen, I know you have to get going. There's a gentleman who's my next guest. I don't know if you've met him out yet, Ricardo Uncos, owner of Uncos Racing. He came in early because he wants to meet you.
Sweet.
He's standing back there in a white shirt, so on your way out.
Gotcha.
He's not attacking you. He just wants to meet you.
Not going to cold cock me on the way out of the bar.
No. Well, he had that in the back of his mind until he saw your guy, and he said, well, maybe not. Well, I certainly appreciate it. Here he is.
How are you, Ricardo?
Ricardo. You got to meet him. Great guy.
All right. Thank you all very much. Have a nice night.
Governor of the state.
See you out at the track. Thank you.
Thanks for being here. I really appreciate it. I want to remind you that if you're looking for, what do we got now? Jeez, I got somebody's bio. Oh, okay, I'll mention these. There's some tickets for sale, and I got an RV spot and 2 tickets for Gateway if you're interested. I want to mention that Sam Pierce Chevrolet is in Daleville, Indiana, a big town. And if you want to know why the best prices are in the country, go to the country in Daleville and you'll see Sam, and he'll take care of you. And one thing about Sam Pierce, when he sells you a car, he doesn't stand behind you, he stands alongside you. If you want to do what the governor's going to do and take a ride in a 2-seater, you need only call the Indy Racing Experience phone. Their number is 317-243-7171. Ask for Shonda. Pick the date you want and mention SJ1. You get a 50% discount. It's a great ride. I guarantee you will love it. And if you're looking for vintage car restoration, whether it's a midget, a sprint car, or a Silver Crown, the Grand King shops can handle whatever it is you need. Just go over to their shop. It's located at 8155 Crawfordsville Road in the old Grand King building next door to where it used to be A.J. Watson. Talk to them. They've got everything you need to make it happen. Restore the car, get into vintage racing. And if you are interested in vintage racing, you need only go to SVRA and subscribe to what is now called Street Tour Quarterly. It includes a Trans Am series as well as SVRA. It's a great magazine, so go to svra.com and subscribe to Street Tour Quarterly. It's a great magazine, first class. I just got my May issue today. And do you like vintage Indy cars? Well, let me tell you, the roar of yesteryear is back. The Vintage Indy Registry will be at the legendary mile, the Milwaukee Mile, for the Legends at the Mile Vintage Indy Cars at the Milwaukee Mile, June 15th and 16th, and they're accompanied with the ARCA Midwest Tour on Father's Day. There'll be a full field of legendary cars. I understand there's about 35 or 36 that'll be up there. They will run both days, Saturday and Sunday, so if you get a chance to get out, you can talk to the owners, talk to the drivers. It'll be a great time, great thing, and adults are only $25 and kids 5 to 12 or 5. That's the Vintage Indy Racing Registry, dedicated to the history and preservation of everything Indy. And if you are a follower now of the Beep Line, their next appearance will be May 18th at the Free Spirit, and on the 31st at George's on the northeast side, and they'll be back at McGilvery's on June the 8th. If you haven't subscribed or joined the IndyCar Nation, do yourself a favor, join it. It's a great organization. Just go to IndyCarNation.com and subscribe and mention Don K, DONKAY 15. You get 15% off of the champion or legendary membership. And if you need insurance for your home, your car, or your commercial building, do what many have done. Call Mike Pardee at VP Insurance. He's located at 5004 West 16th Street in the beautiful town of Speedway. Make an appointment, call him up. Number is 317-248-0070. My next guest is a gentleman that I have been chasing back and forth for some time. And fortunately, Abby made it happen. I sent an email yesterday and wanted to know if Kyle was available. And she said no. And I said, is Kyle available? And my chance of getting Ricardo are slim to none. And she said, called me up and said, you want Ricardo? I said, yeah, he'll be there. Wow. He is the owner of Uncos Racing. He had to put an addition on his shop for all the championship trophies he's won in the Pro 2000 Series and the Indy Light Series, and now he's going to be running again in the 500 with Kyle Kaiser. He's a great guy, runs a great team. He got a building that I couldn't afford to pay the taxes on. Please welcome Ricardo Uncos.
Thank you.
Did I say that right? Uncos?
Juncos.
Juncos?
Juncos.
Holcomb.
I've been teaching you this. I don't know. You're never gonna get it. 3 years maybe trying. One day you're gonna.
But
get
I
it.
call you Ricardo.
Exactly.
I hear you once in a while, Ricky. No, his name is Ricardo. For Pete's sake. I wouldn't do that. How you doing?
Very good, very good. It's good to be back after a few time.
Yes, it's
By
been
a
a
long
while.
time,
but
but,
since you were gone, you have now entered the 500. You have an Indy car. Yeah. And I know your goal, I think, is to run 2 full-time if you can, if and when.
Yes, well, that's, yeah.
And Cadillac got a hold of you and said, hey, how would you like to run sports car series? And you're so sure, why not? I got nothing else to do.
Yeah, that was quite interesting how the program happened so quickly. But yes, we, on top of everything else we were doing, we had the IMSA program with the DPI Cadillac, which is good, but it's also is the top. So requires a lot.
I think you finished in the top 10 this at Mid-Ohio, if I'm not mistaken,
Yes,
think.
we finished P9. Start P9, finish P9. Very hard to pass the track, and strategy-wise, not much we can do.
Plus, I know it was raining on Saturday. Was it raining during the race?
Yeah, no, not during the race.
Oh.
That was actually the only good day that we have. So we missed the whole first day. We missed the first 2 practice. So we have only 1 practice, 1 hour to put the 2 drivers in the car and then straight to qualifying. And that makes obviously very difficult for us.
No kidding. Difficult for everybody. What got you interested in racing and motorsports? I mean, if you look at you, I'd say well, he's probably the CEO of what you are, but of a company that makes widgets. How did you get into racing?
But racing is a family thing for us. My dad used to race cars, so I was growing in a racing family back in Argentina. And obviously that's how everything starts. But then so many things happen in life, and then certainly we end the story in Argentina 2001. Beginning of 2002 in February, I moved myself to Miami for originally 2 weeks to continue my life in this country if I can, and here we are. But it's been always around my life, motor racing.
You started out in Miami as a mechanic in go-karts, if I remember right.
Yes.
And then I think at some point in time, did you get back in the cars?
I did, but just for fun. I mean, I was, yeah. I still do sometimes expect me out of racing, but
I see.
yeah.
But in Argentina, you won some championship, I believe.
No, I didn't.
Didn't you?
No, unfortunately.
You should have said yes. They wouldn't know.
I know, but it's not true. So you guys can go online and take a look. And
you know, it's amazing when you think you came here in 2002, and look where you are today. And the last time you were here, you had a phone call. I said, "Geez, you have to take a pill?" And you said, "No, I do a lot of my driver search and sponsorship on phone." But Abby said you've been gone. She hasn't seen you in 2 months.
Yeah, it's been very busy. But yes, I went back to Argentina like 3 times in the last 2 months, and we put this one of the top Argentinian drivers in the DPI program for Daytona, and that was good because the top driver there won like 12 championships in Argentina. So we was able to put the sponsor together, which is not easy because our situation in our country is really bad, and now the difference on money make it even harder. But we make that deal happen. So that was obviously very busy time from November when we decide to, or when we received the prototype in the shop, to build the car, to start testing, to put all the drivers together for Daytona was a big task.
Is there a particular series you enjoy more than another? Do you like the lights or the Pro 2000?
I like all of them, to be honest. All of them have different ingredients. I mean, the Indy Pro 2000 is the smallest, but you also dealing with drivers that are learning. You have these kids that are coming to our team for development and have that part, which is good, which I enjoy. And then we can see the growing of them, like Spencer Pigot, Connor Daly, all those drivers now racing in IndyCar today, at some point were part of our school program. So that's really nice to see. But then obviously you're talking about IndyCar, Indy 500, of course, those are big things as well. So each of those teams and category has good things for me.
I remember back when Connor was driving for you, you guys won about almost every race.
Yeah, that was a good year.
Yeah.
2010, yeah, we kind of dominated, but was a new year with the rules of the car. We have the best driver for sure. We have the best engineers, and we were lucky as well, right? So you need to have everything, and I think that year we have everything.
You know, the thing that I've heard most that's impressed me is all the guys that I have talked to, and gals, that work for you like it. They said he doesn't bug us, he doesn't bother us. If you need something, ask. More likely than not, if he's got a couple bucks in his pocket, you can get it. So you build a team to win. That's the only reason, you know, theoretically, anybody go races, you're there to win.
Yeah, of course, and we try to be at the same level, the business side to the sport side or the passion side, right? Otherwise, I think it's not going to work. So we try to hire people that they have this love for racing, this passion, and you don't know that, right, when you hire people. So you need to set a system that is going to prove on the end of the day if they do have something that move them to go with no limits, and that's what we have. I think we have a group of people that are willing to do whatever it takes to win races. So we are not watching the clock to go home, and we just focus on the race car, and we enjoy what we do because we like what we do. So that's what else you can ask.
The thing that I found out over the years, and I worked for an IndyCar team for a number of years, is if you've got a driver that's capable of winning, the crew will do anything it takes to give him the car to win with, because they love winning the same as he does. So if you've got a driver that you know is capable, and the guys that you brought on are obviously and have won championships, it makes it easier on the crews because they know, give him the car, he'll do it.
Yes, but for example, in Pro Mazda, we used to have drivers that they are not ready yet to win, and we have them through the years, and we finally make a championship. So we always know that. So they push no matter what. So we get to generate that attitude, and that's very good, and that's unusual because everybody, obviously, like you said, you have a good driver that can win and motivate everybody, and now it's a big difference. But somehow we gotta get the same motivation, even if the driver is not ready yet to win, and I think we're doing that.
Yeah, but if you got a driver with the potential, that's half the battle, and you've been successful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Somehow I don't understand. Sam Schmidt comes up with guys from, good grief, I have no idea where, and the same you've done. And of course, I kept telling him I know he got out of lights because Ricardo kept beating you. So you said, "Heck with that, let's leave."
Yeah, maybe, I don't know.
He said that wasn't true, but I don't believe him. I think you got him out.
Maybe
of it.
he's back. Maybe he needs to be back and prove it. That's what we need to say, right? He needs to come back, and here we are. We can try it again.
You'd love that, wouldn't you?
I would love it.
You know, I'm surprised that more IndyCar teams don't have Indy Lights or bring young drivers up. I mean, another guy that comes up with drivers from I don't know where, Chip Ganassi. I'm surprised that they don't have teams. Michael Andretti has them, and he works his people, and they've done well, and they've moved on, which is the whole idea of the thing. Why don't more IndyCar teams that you're aware of don't have programs?
I think it's a complicated question. I think it's the reason why is maybe because not even an IndyCar teams, some of them, they don't have it, like only Andretti and myself, but there is no other teams as well. I think the Indy Lights, the problem with the Indy Lights, in my opinion, is too expensive for what needs to be, the budget needs to be collected from a driver or driver family. Unfortunately, we don't have this marketing platform that we can sell sponsors. So we don't have the proper TV package, and we are not on the same level that probably should be, because that will make it easy. Or teams like us, we can find sponsors for Indy Lights, and we can subsidize the driver or reduce the price to make it happen. So now everything is related to the drivers because we are not able to find any sponsors. And that's make it a little bit too expensive. And you see the result, we have not many cars in Indy Lights. And I think it's a big problem because I don't know how many drivers will start the Indy 500 that at some point were in Indy Lights champions or drivers. So maybe more than 50% or 50%, I think, is the least. So that clearly tells you how important Indy Lights is for IndyCar. And also teams like us, we grow through the ladder and we can be in IndyCar. So somehow it needs to be fixed. And I don't know how, but because it's a difficult situation. But I think that's the problem.
Something that disturbed me when I found out about it, and when I had Steven Stark here, I didn't realize what had happened. But if you don't have NBC Gold, you don't see lights, you don't see the Mazda series, or no, the Pro 2000, and you don't see the USF 2000. If you don't have that, it's not televised. It's got to make it tough. You're talking to somebody, exposure, there isn't any.
It is difficult, and not everybody. So now you target a very small percentage of people. But the other problem we have, for example, is a series, same than IndyCar, that drivers coming from all over the world, right? So I'm from Argentina, for example. In Latin America, even if you show the races free. You go to IndyCar.com and you can watch it. But our internet service there is not good like here. So now you run into the situation that the majority of the people still don't see the race. So it's not easy, but definitely there is something that we have to improve, because otherwise becomes no good, and you can see the result is on the table. And it's happened not only in Indy Lights, in Promas as well.
Oh yeah, no question about it. None of them are available if you don't have NBC Gold. And I invested in it because I want to see what you guys are doing. So I'm not happy with that, and I'm going to voice my opinion. Not that anybody cares, but I'm going to tell them anyway. I don't care. As old as I am, they throw me out that nobody know. They'd be sitting here eating and say, what happened to the noise that used to be here? And then, look at, you got guys here and they're playing with their phone. Jeez Louise. What's with that?
Maybe he's watching
live
live through the phone.
When I talked to you in St. Pete, you had mentioned that you were a little frustrated that Kyle was not wanting to run anything but IndyCar, and of course he didn't have anything going at the time. But now I see he's finally realized that you've got a car, it's got a seat and a steering wheel, and he knows how to drive it, so he's now driving sports cars.
No, he knows how to drive for sure, no question. I think he's very talented, and he showed that winning the Indy Lights Championship. What I meant when I see you at St. Pete is frustrated to see guys like him and many others that perform really good and still very hard to make a consistent run in IndyCars. Like we did 4 races last year and that's it. And it's not enough. So now we were able to put together the Daytona 24 hours. But now he's coming without driving the car for so long. So it's difficult for him. And that's what I mean. You can see Connor Daly, for example, such a talented guy, and he's doing few races every year, which is not what we want to see. So that's my frustration.
Yeah, well, I agree. And the interesting thing that I see is, and you probably have noticed as well, when Connor's at a racetrack, people want his autograph. He's a popular guy. He's only driving 1 race this year now, although if they do well, and he's in a situation where he could do well, it may grow, but we don't know. It's a 1 race deal as of now. Oh, well. Are you glad you came to America to start your boost your racing career?
Sorry?
Don't be sorry that you're
No,
here. Are you happy? Was that your best
didn't hear
move? You got married here?
Yes.
You have a couple of kids?
a couple kids.
You
yes.
wear a shirt that doesn't have your name on, so they don't. Do they know who you are when you walk in the house?
No. So that happened actually. In fact, a month ago, I walked into my house and my mother-in-law opened the door. I said, "What are you doing here?" Well, I guess this is my house, but I was gone forever. So then she not even remember me.
She was joking, I trust.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I need to explore a little more, but I don't have time.
Was it hard to get used when you moved here to live in America? Was it quite a bit different than from Argentina?
It is a big difference from any angle you can imagine. From the language, which was my biggest problem, the whole country, the system, culture, very different. But I lost everything there, absolute everything. So I come in with my backpack and nothing else. So I was willing to do whatever it takes and whatever I had to do. So at the same time, I have discovered this, right? I started working and discovered this new country, new system, new people. So for me, it was okay. And I think when life put you in that situation, then you don't have an option. There is no more problem because cannot be worse, right? So I take that approach, and here we are today, and so far it's working.
And I'll tell you what, I'm impressed with what you've done in a relatively short amount of time is amazing. But was it hard to get used to the food?
No. I always good with food. That's I don't know if it's good or bad, but yeah. Except spicy, I cannot get spicy. But no, the food was okay. Everything was okay, to be honest. And people here helped me like I couldn't believe it. Like every time I couldn't speak anything. It took me like 2 years for me to understand. I can speak, but then it was very hard for me to understand a radio station or phone calls. Very, very difficult. But finally, I still speaking really bad, but now I can understand. But I think the people here really treat me really good, and I always said, even in my own country, because sometimes you have criticism, like they say, "Oh, you left, now you cannot have an opinion what happened in our country." But this country opened the arms and take me and give me an opportunity that I don't have in my country. So I feel welcome here, and I became citizen in 2012. my kids were born here, so I feel like home. Yeah. Thank you.
Was it hard to get a first job in racing, or did you have to try and start your own?
No, it was not hard actually. I'm lucky. So the day after I came, I started working in a booth shop to do windows and things like that for 10 days. So during those 10 days on the lunchtime, I grabbed the yellow pages, and somebody told me that Fittipaldi lives in Key Biscayne. So I started looking for Fittipaldi names and start calling people. And if they speak English, I hang off, and if they speak Spanish, I talk. And I finally get to Christian's manager, Fernando Paiva. So that's how everything started, because he opened the door for a meeting on a go-kart team. He didn't know if they need anybody, and actually they didn't need anybody. They don't need anybody. But I asked them to give me opportunity, and I was willing to work for 2 weeks without getting paid, and they say yes. And that's, so I leave the job for the 10 days on the booth things. So they hired me for these 2 weeks, but no pay. And I remember the guy repeated, but we're not going to pay you. I said, okay, no worries. So 1 week went by, and they hired me. And I remember the guy said, okay, I can pay you this a week. So they bring an envelope with the whole month ahead of time. So that was fantastic. And I became then after the mechanic and team manager for Christian on his go-kart team.
Did you ever have to sleep in a car? Yeah.
Yes, many times.
Yeah.
Sleep.
I hope you had a nice, comfortable car like a Cadillac or something.
Many times we went to the racetrack, and we didn't have the hotels in the beginning of the go-kart team, so we slept in the actual car, the rental car. But
when you look
fast.
yeah, sure it is. You're in Brownsburg or someplace, wherever you live. Do you look for drivers that have go-kart experience when they move to this? Do you, having been around it and involved in it so much that you know it, a kid that can understand that? And I've heard a lot of drivers said that's where you learn how to drive by the seat of your pants. You feel the car.
Well, today pretty much every single driver already came from go-karts. But Agustin Canapino, the driver that we put in Daytona 24, he never did go-karts. He never did even open-wheel cars. He started racing Touring's car with 16 years old and won 12 championships, and we qualified by 2/10 of the best Cadillac at Daytona. I mean, the kid is just a fantastic driver. And so sometimes you have those situations. So I don't focus on that, to be honest.
Well, if you get a kid that's been driving these types of cars similar to him and has won championships, you kind of overlook a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we always, but all the racing teams are looking for that driver, right? That driver that can win championships. But also, like always, we go back to the same thing. They have to have the budget, or we need to find it for them. So that's the tricky point.
Do you have salespeople? Does Abby go out and try and sell for you?
I don't know if Abby tried to sell. I don't know. She used to spend money.
Oh, she spends money.
So she's the one book all the flights, all the hotels, all the clothing, and I see these invoices and I gotta pay. And now she's fantastic. So she's always with us, probably 7 years already in the team.
Yeah.
So she's been great.
You know, it must have been something in the air because she's now a mother.
She is, yeah.
And I bet she's good. Do you give her out, my child is sick, can I have the day off? You'd probably tell her, no.
Exactly.
We got a race coming.
Yeah, no, she's, I mean, I don't know how she does, but now we had another racing team, and we couldn't add another person, so she's been doing more and more and more, so I'm going to take care of that girl.
Well,
big bonus, maybe something.
I'm not kidding. When I sent an email out yesterday asking for Kyle, and I said in it, chances of getting Ricardo were slim and none. She called me. I said, what did I do wrong now? I misspelled something. She said, would you like Ricardo? I said, yeah, he'll be there. I said, oh, boy. Oh, let me go ask him. And she called me back, emailed me 10 minutes later and said he'll be there.
Yeah, see, here 1 year and a half, I think, my last time here.
I know.
Long time.
You don't like me. I don't know what it is. I must have done something wrong. That's all I can say. You know, I enjoy watching you and your team work. I know you come out once in a while, you see this old guy leaning on the fence who's watching. I like to listen to what goes on and how teams are organized and how things are handled. And I'm impressed with the way your team works. You know, there's not any argument about you do this, I'll do that, or any nonsense. They know what their job is, and they do it. because they know their driver. If they give him the car, he'll win.
Yeah, it's a good, like I said, good group, and we all do everything. So not because you're an engineer or mechanic. So I try to be doing the same, and I do a lot too. So I think everybody's is feel the same level, and I talk to everybody. We have these team meetings, so everybody's up to speed with everything that's happened. So I think it's a lot of family ambient. So we all brothers and sisters, and we just have fun and enjoy a lot what we're doing.
Do you rotate your mechanics around? When I worked for a race team, they used to do that. They work on suspension one week and work on this, and so that if anything happened to one of the guys, you knew what his job was, and you could step in and do it.
We're using people for different teams now. We are sharing some guys because we have too much going on, but everybody knows everything. But the idea also, if you have one guy doing always the same thing, they get better and better doing the same thing as well. So that's an advantage. But I agree, like sometimes you have to, or you have an issue with a mechanic. Actually happened with us at Sebring. So we lose one guy for the weekend, and so my brother got to jump in on the roll over the wall. So everybody has to know what to do everything, because sometimes you have to switch people.
Yeah, but you know what? The only one that hasn't missed is you.
Yeah.
You're there, all of them. Do you ever get tired of travel? Living out of a suitcase?
Yes. The last 2 years, yes. I cannot say no. I used to say, I like it, you know places. Now I'm tired to fly, yeah.
And you're just getting started.
I know.
But it's fun. I mean, every time I see you, you smile, you're happy, you come bouncing out of the trailer, or your transporter, I should say. And, you never say, geez, never. You're always upbeat, you're always ready, because, of course, if the team sees you down, they will too, so they got to know you're there.
But I think it's happened because when you make a living of something that you love, is your passion. I mean, you're always going to have up and downs, and you're always going to have things not right. That happens in life, in anything. So you got to be ready when the moments are not good to step up, and when we are so good, also keep the emotions lower so you keep some energy when the things are not right. But it's a big advantage when you do something like that. For me, work every day is something I want to do. If I don't have this, so for me it's not a sacrifice at all.
Does your wife like it? You're not around much?
She doesn't complain, so maybe it's a good thing. I don't know.
Your kids say, gee, Dad, why don't you stay home? We got a ball game, or we want to go see the Indians play, or go do something.
Yeah, they miss a little bit. And the little girl, 4 years old, she's now feeling when I'm gone. So I have to keep an eye on the family too.
That's the hard part, and a lot of mechanics over the years have had problems with that because they're gone so much and working so many hours.
Yes, but the advantage is my wife also works with us, so we can go to the races. If they don't have nothing going on, they can go and we share the weekend. So that's an advantage as well, right?
Yeah. Well, do you have a nice big motor home that you have parked at the track?
Yes. I don't know how nice it is, but yeah, we do have one.
I can't even get one of those, and I've been here 80 years.
But you have this. Look, 27 years
27.
doing this. Who else do this? Only you did something like that.
I'm the only one
so
dumb enough to do it.
Exactly, but here you are. You're unique. See?
Because of guys like you, the governor, and so forth. That's why I do this. I enjoy it. I enjoy the people in it. And I said, if anybody thinks that I'm kidding about sitting around or standing around watching, I said if I can get on the wall, I do. And you come out and you see me standing there just watching, listening.
Yeah.
And I go out in the pit area when your cars are out running and see what you're saying, what's being said, how they're doing. I enjoy that. And then to be able to call you up and be surprised when she says, yeah, he's available. Wow. Will it be another year and a half?
I don't know. Maybe,
probably.
Maybe 2 now, because I keep adding
geez.
things. You just need to try. It's all about Abby.
I know she's
the boss.
She'll make it happen what happened, but I got to remind her that I'm still here alive and well.
Well, maybe we got lucky enough to win the 500, and then I come back right after. Maybe.
Within what, 2 years?
No.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think there's a lot of people that have heard of you and maybe have seen you but don't know you, and that's one of the reasons I want you here. The people get to know who you are and what you do and what you stand for, and I think it's great. And I don't think there'd be too many people that would complain if you guys won the 500.
Would be nice.
And that's what you're here. You're here to win, right?
Exactly. Nothing else.
You bought the car. You've got all the equipment. You've got the guys. All you need is a trophy that says we won the 500. The Borg Warner would look nice. The little one would look nice in the showcase.
Oh, absolutely. That will be. You don't think on those things, right? When they happen, we'll see. I can ask Roger Penske how he feel.
Of course, you're thinking, but that's what you're there for.
Yeah.
If you didn't want to win, you'd say,
we are a little behind, but we
well,
one day.
It'll happen. You know, you'd be surprised. Who was it that won the 100th? First time out? Boom.
Yeah.
It can happen.
Can happen.
And you got the people and the talent to do it, so wish you well.
Thank you.
I thank you for coming in tonight on short notice. I've been wanting to get you, and you are here, and I appreciate your time. So when you go home, you can blame you say, well, he insisted that I come here. She won't believe it, but
No, it's a real pleasure for me to be back here. I really enjoy it, and I hope I can be sooner than a year and a half, but we'll make it happen.
I'll keep trying. So keep an eye on Kyle Kaiser's driving. What's the car number?
32.
Car number 32 with Kyle Kaiser. It's green and white, most likely.
Thank you.
And this is the man that makes it all happen, Ricardo Juncos. Thank you. I want to mention a couple things before you leave. If there's any golfers out here, there is a golf outing put together by VP Insurance Agency. They've sponsored it for 8 years. It is the St. Baldrige Foundation. And Mike told me the other day that the St. Baldrige research, and they do research for childhood cancer, they think they have something that can work. Now, which cancer it is, he doesn't know, and neither do I. And 98 cents of every dollar that's raised goes to the Baldrige Foundation. It's June 19th, and it's at Woodwind Golf Club. If you're interested, I've got some brochures up here. It's a good cause. It's a lot of fun. There's some great prizes for drawing, so get out there. And if you're looking for tickets to the 500, I have 2 tickets in Tower Terrace, Section 42, Row X. They're aisle seats. Their total value is $120 each. And the Grand Prix tickets, there are 2 of those in Tower Terrace. Suite, $125 each. That's for Saturday's race. It includes food and soda pops, of course. Adult beverages are included. If either of these sound interesting, the 2 Tower Terrace seats for the 500 or the suite for the Grand Prix, call Eileen. Her number is 317-847-1616, or she has the tickets with her tonight. She's sitting right down here. If anybody's interested, see her before they're gone. And for those of you who might want an RV for the Gateway race in August, there is an RV spot available. It's $150, and it just so happens they bought 2 tickets for the race, which they can't use either. They're $78. They're on the top row, seats 7 and 8 for Gateway. It's a great race. Get out there. $75 plus an RV parking spot for $150. If you're interested, Dave Kessler in the green Juncos hat back there has them. He's the guy. Talk to him about it. Next weekend, some guy, you probably don't even know him, never met him before, will be here. He's a 500 winner a long time ago. I even forgot about it. In fact, when he won, Dr. Mark was just a mere child, actually. He's a F1 world champion, and he is the second winningest driver in IndyCar. His name is Mario Andretti. Mario Andretti will be here next week. So come on in. See Mario, and I have another guest that I'm working on that will be interesting as well. Plus, Desiree Janes will be here. The art gallery down in Speedway had to close, and they're going to have a couple of big things going on, one in the Delara building. She'll be here to tell you about it. So thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Till next week, good night.
Thank you. Stay in touch.
Are you doing what you wanted, or are you doing more than you thought would happen?
No, I mean, obviously I never happened like this. If you asked me 15 years ago, I would say that you're crazy, yeah. But the opportunities have happened, so what are we going to do?
Yeah, but they don't happen to everybody, so I would take pride in it.
It's difficult now, because now we are in an area that we need a sponsor. It's a totally different, so I got to be smart. Gotta be careful.
You know how it is.
The problem is, guys running around, hire me, I'll get your sponsor, and pay them, and you'll come up with some money. That never works.
I know.
Good luck to you.
Thank you very much. We see you at the track. Thank you.